Hello, welcome to the One Life Church devotional series where we cover the entire Bible in 20 months. Well, today's chapters, Numbers 23 and 24, take us into the dark underworld of the demonic, to the occult, to curses. Now, I'm standing in a derelict building in our neighborhood that the neighbors call the haunted house. Now, you can see behind me a stairwell, little tucked away passageways, nooks and crannies, high ceilings, wooden floorboards, broken stained glass windows. It's the stuff that movie sets and thrillers would be made of. Now, many people would not need convincing that the demonic world exists. That's why they wear bangles to ward off evil spirits. You know, some people even say things like touch wood. Why? They don't want bad luck to come their way. There's a whole division in our police force designed to combat crime that's committed under the guise of the occult. I remember when I went to school, I went to a boarding school, a 100-year-old boarding school. The first night we were told at midnight, if you come into the dining hall and you rub this plaque, the ghost of this particular guy, I think his name was Abbott, comes out and he makes himself known. I remember boredom masters even saying in the holidays, it's freaky, you hear there's nobody here, there are no kids here, but you can hear the floorboards creaking as these ghosts walk around. And then others of you would say, oh, it's a lot of nonsense, man. That's an unsophisticated, uncivilized people thinking about, all sorts of superstitious things. Well, I've got an answer for that. Just because something is not seen doesn't mean it's not there. For you who think there is no evil, there's no demonic force in the world, just because you can't see COVID doesn't mean it isn't there. Where does all the evil in the world come from? Think about that. Genocide, 6 million people being murdered. That's just not natural. Where does it come from? Well, the Bible teaches that there is a demonic world and curses do exist. And so the story in Numbers 23 and 24 is this Moabite king called Balak is terrified of Israel and wants Balaam to curse them. And so he builds these 7 altars, slaughters 7 rams, 7 cows, and he says, now curse them. But 3 times Balaam doesn't do it. And one of his instead of cursing, he actually blesses Israel. In verse 19, it says, God is not a human, that he should lie, not a human being, that he should change his mind. Does he speak and then not act? Does he promise and not fulfill? I have received a command to bless, and he is blessed and cannot change it. So every time, Balaam set himself up to curse, God said, no, bless these people. Anyway, after 3 times, Balak just gets fed up and says, God, I'm not going to pay you. Balaam said, well, I'm going to take your money anyway. And then he quickly rattles off another 4 blessings. And his one blessing is this: a star will come out of Jacob. In other words, there'll be a great light coming out of the children of Israel. A scepter that'll rise out of Israel. In other words, a governing ruler. He will crush the forehead of Moab. And so this is a direct, inference for David came out of Israel, ruling Israel, and destroyed Moab. But it also speaks of the Messiah. Even rabbinic teachings and Jewish tradition says this was a prophecy about the Messiah coming who was going to destroy evil. Which brings us to you and me as believers in Jesus. We are in Christ and he has destroyed evil. He's made, Colossians 2 tells us, a public spectacle of the demonic powers by triumphing over them on the cross. And he's done it, Ephesians 1 says, for you and for me, for his church. This is what Ephesians 1 says, that you have been, that he is seated at the right hand of God, far above all principalities and powers, and he has given authority over them for the church. The next chapter 2 says, you are seated with him in heavenly places. So as a Christian, curses are real. But you are seated in Christ and you are above these things. There's no need for a Christian to fear curses, to touch wood, to go into superstitious wranglings. No, you hide yourself in Christ because he is above these principalities and powers. Even the psalmist, in Proverbs 26:2, it says, like a fluttering sparrow and a darting swallow, an undeserved curse does not come to rest. Curses do not deserve to sit on the heads of Christians. Why? Because cursed as he was hung on a tree, the curse went onto Jesus. We are now in Jesus. He has destroyed them. And your authority as a Christian, seated in Christ, is above the demonic and the evil world. Not because of your strength, but because of his strength. Trust you have a good day and you sleep easy tonight.